Hello everyone, welcome back to another P3D video. My name is Adam, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can very easily update any airport with night lighting super easily. You don't have to be a developer or even good at computers, to be honest. It's literally click and done. Now when I say night lighting, we're not talking about lighting done by the poles in terms of airport overhead lighting. We're talking about the floor lighting. So you're talking about your taxiways, your stands, and your runways, and extra details that you can also add that you might not be aware of. And it's really easy. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a third-party airport that you're doing this to, or even maybe a ICAO code airport that is got, maybe it's an Orbex enhanced one. You cannot do this to default. At the end of the day, you don't really need to enhance the default night lighting because it will already have it by default, unless it's like a grass strip or something. But you can't alter any default ICAO codes. The only thing you can do is copy and create a new one and then change that copy, but you can't change the original. Anyway, we're here in Iceland, and I'm using Iceland X from Aerosoft, and this is their airport BIBA, and it's a basic airport. It's got a grass strip over here, and that's basically about it. It's like the grass strip and the runway, and then you've got this giant apron with a couple of buildings, a static plane, a few cars, and that is it. In the middle of nowhere, and as you can see, the runway, to be honest, this looks like default texturing anyway. So it's almost like an Orbex enhanced job, but it's got no night lighting. So I couldn't even land on the grass strip if I wanted to, because I can't even see it. Or this runway, it's got really no, Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if in real life this airport is meant to have night lighting or not. This is a flight simulator. We can do what we want. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to show you all the options available to you for runways and stands. Doesn't mean you have to apply it. At the end of the day, you can apply what you want. That's the beauty of FLIGHTSIM. So I'm not trying to do what I'm showing you in this video for realism, just to help you understand it. First thing you need to do is go and find the ICAO code of the airport in question. So for me, it's Aerosoft, Iceland X, and they tend to put theirs in the ecosystem. But if it's a third party or if it's from Orbex, you'll know exactly where to go. It's going to be in the scenery folder, and it'll have either ADE or perhaps some other weird, name on it, but it will be the ICAO code of the airport. In this case, it's BIBA. Don't worry about the CVX, that's just for vectors. And as you can see, this folder is filled with about 40 plus airports in here, which cover all of Iceland, but it is just the airport, okay? So if we open this up with ADE, now Airport Design Editor, if you don't have it installed, I highly recommend it. I'll put a link down below in the description box to where you can actually go and download it yourself. I highly recommend it. It's good for doing exactly this, altering airports. And, most developers have left P3D now. So any updates you'll have to do yourself. So you might as well get used to using this program, because this is how you do it. Now I'm using P3D version 5.4, but this works in any simulator of P3D or FSX. So as you can see, we have the airport, looking down on it. You've got the runway there, the grass strip, you've got the apron, which is supposed to be gravel, it says, and 2 parking positions, and then the tower just there. So, and also, if you open it up when you're in the sim, you will see yourself there as well. You can't move it, But if you do move in the sim, this will update in real time and move wherever you go. This is just a runway start position, so I better put it back. Otherwise, wherever I put this is where you load into for runway 30. So if I wanted to basically load in here for runway 30, that would happen next time. But I'll just leave it on where it was, to be fair. So yeah, this is the runway, and the black line on here is a taxi path for, you know, GSX basically. As is these are taxi paths, you know, for GSX vehicles. They will follow this line. So if this is incorrect, GSX will not behave properly. This is where all the errors lie for when people blame GSX, to be honest. But with these lines here, if you double click it, you have some options. If you click draw surface and draw detail, it will load the default texturing for this runway, which, to be honest, it already is, so I don't need to do that. But let's say you've got a third-party developer where you actually prefer the default texturing and properties of a default runway. Well, you can just come in here and click these two boxes, and now the default will load in. It's good basically because the default runways properties act sometimes a lot better than what third-party developers might assign to that runway in terms of, you know, how slippery or how wet or how the wheels behave on the runway. You know, it's like, does it feel like you're, you know, driving over sand when you're actually on a concrete runway? It's probably because the developers not set the correct properties. Anyway, also if you double click on, yeah, it just brings up the same thing here. But this isn't really where, you know, I'm giving you so much more information so you have a better understanding. This has got nothing to do with lights, by the way. So double click the runway to bring up this properties box. Now this is basically where you change everything to do with this runway. Now, as you can see, it's set to asphalt, but you have a whole slew of options: grass, water, cement, snow, clay, shale. Like, you have so many options. Now these are all default surfaces, so it will also load the default properties of that surface. So if I was to click on ice, you know, we'd have an ice runway here, which is great visually, but ice is slippy, the traction on your tires is gone. So when you land on ice, you slide like you would in real life. And so you might find it mega hard to land any plane on a surface of ice. If you wanted to, you could click snow, which isn't as slippery. It looks visually similar, but is basically, it has traction on it, because snow, you know, the wheels will actually grip a little bit more so than ice. Obviously I'm not going to put either because it said asphalt. We're going to keep asphalt. I mean, I could, you know, brick or steel mats if I wanted to, oil treated, so it's a bit more slicker. But not only does this change a visual aspect, but it changes the properties of how the wheels react on that, you know, surface. So we're going to keep to asphalt. Now, if let's say I wanted to change the runway's properties and make it a little bit more, you know, better to land on, or, you know, even slippier, but I didn't want the visual changing, like I'm happy with what was already there, you just take the transparent, and whatever you've selected here, if we were to say planks of wood, and I click transparent, it's going to have the traction of planks, but it's not going to load that texture in. So you're changing how the plane reacts on that runway, but not the visual aspect. It's really cool, honestly is. Got nothing to do with lights, just thought I'd mention it. Okay, so if you click on the tab, you've got several tabs up here. Click on lights. You need to activate these, even if you don't do anything, otherwise you won't see anything. edge lighting, I always tend to stick these on high. It's basically the brightness. We're not going to have, oh, actually on this one we will have center lights, so center red, but I'm not going to do anything with the secondary lights. So yeah, this is changing the brightness, and this is now changing the type. So the primary approach lights, I don't know what half these mean, by the way. So, but I would say experiment and see what the difference is. We'll choose SS Alpha for whatever that means. We're going to have end lights, touchdown lights, rail lights, all the bells and whistles, 3 strobes full, you know, so it'll strobe 3 times. And that's basically it. Now, if you go to markings, you also have a whole host of options here. Edge lines, edge pavements, a precision mat, touchdowns area. You know, you can choose whatever you want here. Even the pattern, though, basically this is for AI. You could say no takeoff on this runway, or no landings on this runway, or, you know, yes to takeoff and landings, and it'll be a left or right turn on the pattern. So if you wanted to alter AI behavior for this airport, you could basically do that, is what that is. You don't have to worry about primary or secondary. It's just adding visual, like blast pads, pappies. Actually, we'll put some pappies in here. Tricolor pappies. Let's see what that looks like. And then you can change where they're positioned. How far are they spaced apart from each other and from the runway? How far are they from the threshold? Or the pitch is the angle. Are they, you know, I mean, 3 is what you should keep it at. It's the standard for any light beam for landing system. So, but this is how, is it going to be pointing straight up like a light beam, you know, like Vegas, or is it going to be pointing, you know, pretty much straight ahead? No, 3-degree angle, you know, but you could change that to 5 if you want and have a 5-degree angle. And that's basically it. Yeah. So once you've made all your changes that you want to make, you just click OK, and boom, there you have it. It loads it in. Now, it doesn't load it into the sim because, first off, we haven't saved this ICAO code, so no changes get made, you know, live. You do all your changes and then you save it. So for the grass runway, you know, it says runway grass. Cool. So markings, we're going to have edge lines and a pavement edge, so it will stand out a little bit better. There's going to be no center line, no touchdown area because it's a grass strip at the end of the day. Lights, the edge lighting can be medium. I always click high because it just looks cool. So and that's basically it. Oh, do we need pappies? Yeah, let's have some left-sided pappies. I don't know what a pap is. Let's try a pap and see what happens. And that'll put pappies on runway 3 only, by the way. If you want to do the other side of the runway, then you just, you know, what is the opposite end? So if we click OK on this and we go down here, you can see it's 21. So you just go and find 21, and now whatever you change, you're changing the other side of the runway as well. And I do recommend making, you know, the same kind of changes, you know. So it's kept that, so that's okay. Cool. So we can cancel that off. But as you can see now, we've got edge lighting here and the pavement edging. So now there'll be lights on this one. But what about this terminal? The terminal itself, the apron's got oh man, and it hasn't even got any ground markings. If we have a look at it, like there's no ground markings whatsoever on this asphalt. Well, like I said before, we can change that. So if we double click these lines here, we can say rather than a path, it's going to be a taxi path. And now we can assign lights, lines, We could even say, draw me a taxi path, the surface, and it will do, you know, the default. We can say if they're solid or they're dashed lines. And when you click OK, it will visually create it on here. So then we need to do this one. Draw surface detail, lights, obviously click taxi, and solid and dashed. And it says here you can even, like, you know, is it gravel, is it concrete? Well, hang on, let's change it to what should we change it to? What will look cool? Brick. Let's have some brick on that. Boom, now you got brick. Now, in order to be consistent, you really do want to follow this through a little bit, otherwise it's going to look weird. For this one, it's basically, now it's a parking. It knows it's a parking, by the way, for this one, because it feeds into a parking. So you're kind of restricted in some of your options. So for this one, they'll both be dashed as we're going into a parking area. There will be lines and lights, and we can still draw surface detail, but it's a predefined surface of what the background already is. So in this case, gravel. You can't alter it, sadly. So dashed on these two, lines, lights, and, well, you don't need to do this because it's already there, to be fair. And there we go. So even on the parking, you can also do some alterations, but nothing to do with visuals. But if you wanted to maybe specify this is a American Airlines only spot, or a pushback direction of only left or right, you can do that. If you select none, then it'll still allow you left and right by GSX. But you can even change the parking spot here. Like, actually, I want a medium or a small, and each small, medium, and large has characteristics for GSX. So it'll have certain features or non-features, but we don't need to worry about that. So that is that. On here, there ain't much to do. You know, if I untick this, it would basically remove the gravel, or I could change the gravel to something else. You know, we could have tarmac instead, and it would visually change this to tarmac. So, well, we won't do that because I do actually want to keep all this. So, was there anything else here? Yeah, we don't need to draw the surface detail because it's already in. As you can see here, the runway has already been drawn in, so this won't do anything. If we come down here, see, it's got the overrun and all that, and all the lights, all the bells and whistles. We'll put back this, and now to save it, first off, you have to shut your sim down. You cannot save a KOBGL whilst P3D is up and running. So shut it down first. Then, and this will freeze, by the way, whilst you do it. It will only resume when P3D has fully shut down. So if your P3D takes a while to shut down, then you'll just have to wait. It won't crash, or it shouldn't crash, but it will take its sweet ass time. So now it's back, we're good. So in order to help you complete the saving or the compiling stage successfully, I kind of do need to warn you. Some airports, third party, or, you know, changed by other people, possibly could have libraries that are used, you know, like Orbex libraries. Here we have none, so it's easy. All we have to do is go and compile the airport, and then click open folder and go to this address, copy that address, Control C, and then paste it into this address bar, Control V, and enter, and bada, it takes us straight there. We can click Biba because that's the airport. It changes the file name down here. It is a BGL. Save. Yes, I do want to overwrite this. And then compile. Now this pop-up is warning us that there's a CVX file, which is here, which is the vector information. We don't need to worry about that, so just click yes. And now it's saved. But if you had under lists objects here where it says unknown, it's like, oh, it won't compile it until it knows, or it will compile it and it will remove whatever these objects are. They'll show up as black on here if they're unknown. And the way, because obviously they are a part of the ICAO code, the developer has put them in, but because they're from a library, they're not yet connected to this ICAO code BGL. So a way to connect it is to go to Tools, Library Object Manager. Now generally you'll find these ICAO things either in the scenery folder that the ICAO code comes from, or possibly other folders to do with the same developer. So in this scenery folder there are a whole host of BGLs, and these are objects. Sometimes they are lightings. Here you got apron lights, ground, threshold lights, because some developers put the lights in separately to the ICAO code, and that is fine, but this is where the libraries probably are found. So go to add folder and then navigate to that folder. So, well, it's not Antarctica, is it, mate? You know, navigate to that folder. In this case it would have been the scenery priority 2. Click select folder and it will basically scan, and it's found 93 files that it can process. Click OK and then click save, and then any libraries that are in that file or in that folder will now show up under libraries used. If it still says unknown, you've got to go look elsewhere. Maybe it's even in Orbex. Maybe they've scantily used Orbex libraries or another developer's library, and until it says got like a name next to it, then you can proceed to compile the airport and do all that stuff. I do recommend using the same name as whatever is in the scenery. If you give it a different name, you still will have this untouched, the original, and then you'll have yours put in, and now you'll have an instance of 2 airports showing up. Not what you want. Anyway. So as we come back in, as you can see from the top down, we have the blast over thing, whatever you see here, and the edging on the grass is here, and the markings here on the pavement, which in all honesty there hasn't put any brick in, I must say. So I guess I should have transparented, because it'll be underneath this, but I should have clicked transparent maybe on this whole thing, or you know, whatever. But that's probably why the brick isn't showing up, or you know, the texture of the brick is, you know, not working or something. But anyway, as you can see, the parking positions now are basically aligned to that according to the type of gate that it is. Probably should have selected the small GA. This is probably a parking space a bit more in line for, you know, ATR or something. But if we change it to nighttime, now the purpose of the video becomes evident. You have all the lighting that you require, and you have on the runway all of everything that it requires as well, including the little pappies tricolor that we selected. And yeah, basically. Also on the grass strip, although it has put some center stuff in there I didn't really think about, but yeah. Now you can basically go and do this for any airport you want. It will use default night lighting stuff, but as you can see, I mean, you can control the intensity of it. They are pretty good, I feel, and you can basically update or enhance developers' work. You know, maybe you don't like the texturing on the ground, well, turn it transparent in the third party, and then, you know, add it elsewhere from default. If you get my my pack, the terrain pack, I've altered all the terrain textures, the default ones, sorry, runways. So this is actually a default runway, believe it or not. I've added or enhanced the texturing for default runways. So yes, even giving them edge lines and that, but you see that it's like cracked cement. There's different ones for, you know, cement, asphalt, stuff like that. So this is a default runway now, and you can override, you know, and have this instead of third party if you prefer that. You know, if you don't prefer it, then leave the third party one in. But there you go. It's the same with the grass. I've updated like what the grass looks like, and as you can see, I think looks a lot better than what a third party dev would have done. Anyway, thanks for watching this. I hope it's been of some use. If you've got any questions, put it in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next one. If there are any other videos you want me to make, then let me know, and I shall make it so. Take care. Bye.